Hi folks, Travis Fox here with FoxOptic.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Pulsar Thermion 2 XG50 LRF rifle scope that's came out. It's going to be a 3-24 offering in the Pulsar Thermion lineup with the 800-meter laser rangefinder integrated into it. That's going to be really useful down the road. We'll be seeing the ballistics app become available for this model as well. This is a 3-24 running the Linred or ULIS 12 micron 640-480 sensor. And so that's going to allow them to hit a 3x base magnification and a 50 millimeter focal length. So it's going to give you just a bigger, better view of them objects out there at distance. And that's what I'm going to be showing you in this video. It's going to be decently short. We're just going to show you some footage comparing it to, I've got some footage comparing it in some poor conditions to the old XG and the new XP50 Pro, because I get a lot of questions with regards to the new XP50 Pro being 25 millikelvin and this one being 40, if the magnification actually does help, and I think you'll see from the footage that it certainly does help. So, those objects out there in front of you that are actively emitting radiation or heat, that 3x base magnification is going to give you a higher thermistor per unit area count, and it's going to give you a little better clarity at those longer distances, even though the millikelvin sensitivity isn't quite as high, because those items are actively radiating enough heat to feed the sensor and give you a good clear view of those objects out there at distance. And I'll let the footage kind of speak for itself, but you'll see hopefully in the footage where, when the conditions get tougher, the 25 millikelvin sensor in the XP50 Pro will start to catch up a little bit, but I don't think it ever exceeds the capability of the 3x lens, because you're 2x in the XP50. But what I hope to prove to you is that, you'll see in the clearer footage where the thing really does. The gloves kind of come off and the XG starts to exceed. I would say, my honest opinion, by about, it's a factoring. I mean, so you're taking about a 30% jump up in, or limitation in field of view. Your field of view is getting narrower because of the higher magnification, and that's concentrating the thermistors over a smaller area. So you get about that 30% jump in your longest range detections in optimal conditions. Now, again, in better conditions, the 25 millikelvin sensor does seem to catch it a little bit, but I don't think it ever exceeds it. So let's take a look at the footage, and I'll be back with you. Okay, we got a Raccoon out here. He's a couple hundred yards out there. And basically, I just wanted to show you kind of the zooming amongst the units. You can see here the conditions were really, really tough this night. We had been about 3 or 4 days in a row with no sunlight, and it had been really, really overcast the preceding day, and we had had a lot of air moisture that evening. And you can definitely see the older XG is suffering in this condition. I nuked it several times, and it just didn't really care for the condition. It's kind of a testament to how much better the newer one did in this condition. And I think you can definitely see when I'm focused in on the Raccoon at that distance, how it is giving you a better sharpness on the object itself. But the XP Pro is actually doing really well also on this one. I think I could tell, without much trouble in either one of them what I was looking at there. So in terms of identification at that distance, neither of the newer ones had much issue with it, but for whatever reason in this condition, it definitely seemed like the older XG struggled more than the new XG LRF or the XP LRF. Now, here, I've got them pointed at the bins out there in front of the shop. That's 792 yards. So basically just wanted to confirm that the rangefinders were both reading the same from the same perspective point, or approximately the same. And then in this condition, same thing. It had been really, really tough. The sun had just started to peek out just a little bit, and but other than that, really tough conditions, but you have a really high thermal contrast. And so what I'm trying to show here is when I'm zoomed in, you can see how much more clearly you can see the definition of those ribs in that roof. And essentially just kind of trying to show that in the G. It's kind of hard to see there, but in the eyepiece I could definitely notice quite a bit of difference. Now when I would zoom back in those conditions, I think the P Pro actually looked better, but zoomed in, the G LRF looked better. Likewise, here we are still running really tough conditions. These deer were considerably closer. They were only about 114 yards, somewhere in that. I think they varied a little bit front to back, but essentially just trying to zoom up here. I had to shoot this out the window. I didn't have time to get it on the tripod, so it's a little shaky, but I think you can see kind of the point is just trying to show you the temperature definition on the hot objects, how much better that looks in the G with the 3x magnification comparatively, just because you have a higher thermistor per unit area count. And so, you can kind of see there, again, in this particular instance, the old G is struggling a bit there to adjust contrast, and that I think that's just kind of a testament to the newer processor doing a better job. It really looks pretty good in this scenario with those higher temperature objects, but it's not making very good use of the background, or not as good a use of the background. Now here we have a pretty wide variation of distances. Again, testing the rangefinder a bit. These deer were scattered all over this field from, the closest ones were about 150, 160 yards to clear back there. You can see where those are pushing back better part of, 300 or 400 yards in some instances. I think on that one there, I think I hit the tree line, but, these were obviously more around that 400 yard mark, but could clearly tell that they were deer without much trouble. Again, you can kind of see when I'm zoomed back, it seems like the P gives a little bit better broad image picture, but as soon as you start zooming in on objects, unquestionably that higher magnification starts to show through, especially when you have those hot objects out there radiating heat that the sensor can pick up. It just adds definition to the target. So again, in this particular instance, I'm going to kind of keep panning around this field here. In a second I'll move over to the other side and kind of give you a better idea of a few other things. There we are at 24x on the G. That's obviously giving you quite a bit of pixelization, but you can see where it would be really useful to be able to hold the reticle in relationship to a target at that kind of distance. Again here, just kind of trying to show the different magnification ranges between the two units. Effectively what you'll see is as you start getting up around that, past that 6x, the image pixelization kind of starts to distort things in that P. They're just, like thermistors per unit area, they're just not enough there to really make clear detail. So like here, I was really struggling to try to focus that out and get them as sharp, in comparison as I could, to really kind of show you, what's going on here. Because in this one, you can clearly see that there is better definition in the G. There it nuked on me. It kind of paused out, but you can definitely tell. I mean, you can make that silhouette out no problem at all in the P, but characteristically the image quality is just much better in that particular instance than the G is. The G is just more capable of rendering it better than the XP50. So again, it's just one of those things where that 3 to 24 power spanning is going to win out over that 2 to 16. Now here we had a coyote. He's moving out there in between these deer, and when I'm zoomed back there, the definition in that P looks unbelievably real. It really showcases how much clarity and definition you get out of that 25 millikelvin sensor on those inanimate things, like that aren't actively radiating heat. But what you're going to see here is while it does a really good job on that, there's just only so much it can do with the limited amount of magnification. So as he starts pressing out here, at this point he's probably out there close to 200. I think I'm going to range him here in a minute, and he's at 3, but he's worked a ways farther out there. So there, he's pushing out towards 2-ish, and you can still make his tail out at the back end of him without any problem. I could see it in the eyepiece, but I could continue to see that tail all the way out to 300 or 400 yards as he pushed farther and farther out into this field. And that's what you're going to see, is like those smaller details, the things that help you identify things more clearly, are going to dissolve. Now here I'm doing something that you wouldn't see people with a traditional scope doing too often. It's just kind of the confidence with the thermal is I can come back and find him because I know he's towards the center of that field and he ain't got too many places to go to get away from me. So I'm just doing a real quick scan to make sure there's nothing else out there. And again, you know, with a daytime color optic, even if it was broad daylight, you'd never do that because you'd be afraid of losing him and blended into the colors in the background. But the thermal is just, you know, you ain't really got to worry about him getting away. So again, there I am at 316. Can still make the tail, could still visibly see it in the eyepiece without any issue. You can see where I'm getting a nice sharp edge line. Still a really good silhouette that I could shoot into at that distance. He's going to keep working out across there. You can start to see the pixels building kind of around him in the P, and you can see how much sharper the edge lines are in the G. So that's kind of telling you, you know, at that distance, those pixels are starting to get spread over a pretty big area. And effectively, that's just what I'm trying to show you here. So I'm going to take another range on him here in just a second. You know, again, can still make a really good ID in the G, can still see that tail. It's pretty much gone in the P. So there we are at, I think, 400 if I remember this one, or 402. So, you know, he's getting quite a ways out there now. But, you know, again, you can still see that tail moving across his hunch or his haunch on the G, but not in the P. So here I had deer just kind of actively scattered on this, and I knew I could hit them reliably, easily with the rangefinder. Just want to kind of prove out that the rangefinder reads dead on accurate, no matter which unit you're rolling. And so kind of testing that rangefinder amongst them deer. Here in just a second, I'm going to kind of show you the view through the PIP. So here you can see that I'm running the PIP zoomed up. Again, you can see the better definition in the G versus the P. Just giving you a clearer, better view of what you're looking at out there. If you kind of look at the background in this one, I might have had the contrast off just a little bit in P. It actually looks better in G, and typically at the base magnification, P does look a little better, so that might have been me just not having that adjusted quite right. But I think it's still, in terms of the sharpness under magnification, you can tell kind of what I was trying to show you there. I think this is just about done with. I think I was just about here. I started hearing something and I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it was one of them Chinese spy balloons, but I think it ended up just being some geese. I'm going to go up here in just a minute and take a look. I think, oh, yep, there they were. There's quite a bit of geese going over top of me. But I hope this gives you a better idea what those look like. If you have any questions, feel free to call me anytime. So I hope you found that informative. If you need any help with any of these items or would like to check them out, you can feel free to do so on our website, which is www.foxoptic.com, or you can give me a call anytime, toll free at 877-806-2977. Thanks for watching and have a great day.